Hey, everybody, welcome to the back and forth. I want to make sure I introduce my co host first because I want to give her props because, hey, she is doing big things. So, what is your name over there, ma'am? Which am I looking? Yeah. Well, what's your name over
Hi,
there?
Kev. Hi, Kev. My name is Chanel Renee. How
All
you
right, and
doing?
I am Kevin Scott. In case you all didn't know, I am Kevin L. Scott to be exact. And we are here for the back and forth show. And it's been a while for us, but we want to make sure we keep putting out that good content for you co-parents out there for things that may be relevant to you. And before we get started, make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and notification button down there so you know when we put out that new content. And on today's show, we've got something special that Chanel has lined up for us. And I usually come very prepared for our shows, but this time Chanel has popped something new out there for me that I have no idea where it's going to come from or how it's going to turn out. So this ought to be a good show because Chanel's caught me off guard on this one. So I'm going to just watch my face. If it goes sideways, I'll hit the pause button and say, please forgive us because Chanel put this out there. So if anything goes wrong, it's her fault. But as one of the co-hosts, I'll take the blame for it, of course. So Chanel, with that, what are we talking about today?
So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to talk about a video that was posted several weeks ago. Let's just take a look.
Facing 180 days in jail for overpaying his child support and over-visiting his 11-year-old son. His attorney and a community activist are now demanding answers. It's my responsibility to take care of him. I'm not in this world, I have to. Clifford Hall says he's more than happy to pay child support for his 11-year-old son. I'm his father, you know. It's my responsibility to take care of him. But Hall says when the amount of child support was modified, no one told him.
And I discovered that for some reason his employer was withholding a large amount some weeks, a small amount some weeks, zero amount some weeks.
I didn't want to go to jail, basically. So Hall quickly paid almost $3,000 in back child support. When Hall and his ex-wife were in Judge Lisa Millard's court last November, he owed nothing.
Opposing counsel testified twice that he's on payment.
But the attorney representing the child's mother wanted Hall to pay her $3,000 in attorney fees, and Judge Millard agreed. Court documents also reveal Hall wasn't following the court's scheduled times to pick up his son. Another modification he says he knew nothing about.
The judge ended up sentencing him to 6 months in jail.
When she said, remand you to the Harris County Jail for 180 days, my mouth just dropped. I can't be there for my son in jail. I can't pay child support in jail. This is.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Kev, what you got to say?
Well, I wish you'd gave me a heads up. So so you mean to tell me he's going to jail for overpaying child support, and then also going to jail for visiting his child for times when he shouldn't have visited his child, if I'm not mistaken? So we are. So he's taking care of the child financially.
Mm-hmm.
He
Mm-hmm.
overpaid, and he actually
Mm-hmm.
was part of his child's life. He was
Mm-hmm.
visiting and seeing his child, but he's still
Mm-hmm.
doing jail time for it. So somebody, you're gonna have to make this make sense to me, Chanel, because if you're doing what you're supposed to do as a parent, but not based on stuff that he didn't, if I'm not mistaken, he didn't know about these adjustments, but he's still going to jail for. So what good is that going to do to the child now? Make it make sense.
Exactly. Make it make sense. I definitely feel like this is should be appealed because we are trying to get fathers to take care of their children.
Mm-hmm.
We are trying to get fathers to be there for their children. How in the world and heaven and earth is he going to be able to do that? Like you said, how is he going to be able to take care of his child and be
Mm-hmm.
there for his child? And then, furthermore, to be reprimanded for doing the right thing. So, what message are we sending? So, I again, unfortunately, we still have some limited details
Mm-hmm.
because I believe probably because this is going to go for appeal, because there's no way that you should be reprimanded for doing right. You know.
And all the time, I'm always going to say, excuse me, things come back to communication. Whether
Mm-hmm.
you can communicate with the other parent via text, in person, voicemail, whatever. But there should be at no point should there be a situation where um, we are not trying to uh, reach some kind of agreement, compromise, something with the other parent in order to do what's best for our children. Because
Mm-hmm.
this situation right here is about to get worse if the
Mm-hmm.
appeal doesn't go through or he doesn't get to get another date in court. Because he's going to sit in jail for 180 days. He's not going to be able to pay child support at that time. He's not going to be able to see his son at that time. And who knows what's going on at that time while he's in jail again between the mother and the son. Who knows what kind of stuff is what kind of messages are being said to the child, because, well, your father's not here anyway. He don't care. But he can't be there. He's in
Mm-hmm.
jail for
Because of you.
paying. Yeah, because of you, because he paid child support. Then it came back to find out he wasn't supposed to pay that money, but then you wanted court fees to pay for something that you started. Then, for visiting said child, when he either wasn't supposed to visit the child or he visited the child too much. And this is why I say sometimes the court system is, even sometimes you hear the judges and the lawyers say between parents, do what you can between the two of you to keep it out of my courtroom. Because when I make a decision as a judge, somebody's not going to like that decision. So that's why we have
Mm-hmm.
people like mediators, we have counselors, we have people out there who can talk to both parents separately
Mm-hmm.
if need be, or the child, because sometimes the child may have an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But we got to do what we can to stay out of these courts,
Mm-hmm.
because no one's
Yeah.
getting any richer off this, because that
Mm-hmm.
all money ain't good money.
Mm-hmm.
That money right now is going to be some spiteful money that's coming back now. So
Mm-hmm.
imagine now later on, when he gets out of jail, how are you supposed to be as a parent supposed to have any kind of relationship with the other parent as far as communication if you just sent that person to jail? How are they ever going to want to have a conversation with you ever again?
Right. Right. You know what,
Yeah.
Kev, in a lot of ways, I blame the judge
Mm.
because the judges are usually because they shape narratives, right,
Mm-hmm.
for court cases to come. And so, if this was something that was judged, ordered, all of these things, now somebody else is going to go to court for something similar and say, "Oh, well, this was the judgment on, you know, this docket, and
Mm-hmm.
so this is why we're coming back to court to get more child support, or we're coming
Yeah.
back to court to send him to jail for retaliation purposes and not really for the betterment of the child." So,
Mm-hmm.
again, in these cases, when I see stuff like this, Kev, I'm like, that's another judge that I feel was very biased and now has created a sentence that
Mm-hmm.
was unjust. And now, again, a crooked lawyer can come back and say, well, this was ruled back in 2023 or 2022, and so this is why we are bringing this case to the courtroom. And again, a lot of times judges have to take that into consideration, and so we got to be very, very careful when, especially if this doesn't get appealed, we got to be very, very careful about that, because now we're setting a new precedence. So if this doesn't get appealed, then that's a precedence now. If it does get appealed, then they can say, oh, okay, well, that case was appealed and overthrown, so you can't even bring that to the courtroom. You know what I mean? But if it
Yeah.
doesn't get appealed, then now we got a new precedence where people are going to jail for doing the right thing.
And I want you to think about something. Think about the cycle that gets started when
Yep.
fathers, or I don't care if it's the mother, gets punished for something that they were doing
Mm-hmm.
for the child.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it wasn't enough, even if the effort was made to do
Mm-hmm.
something for the child, that's something that we should be able to take into consideration. Even
Yeah.
a quote unquote deadbeat dad, if a deadbeat dad shows up once every 2 years and brings something for a child's birthday or brings some money to the child, not to say you should get credit for doing what you're supposed to be doing in the first place, but we as the other parent sometimes need to step out of the way, because our children most of the time will be able to see through a lot of the fluff and a lot of the smoke that parents blow towards the child, saying, hey, I'm trying my best, hey, your mama or your daddy don't do what they're supposed to do in the first place. That's why I can't see you. Sometimes the children will be able to see through that. And don't forget, your children do get older. And when they get older, they may have questions. And what are you going to do? Are you going to lie to your child and tell them, well, the other parent wasn't there for you because they didn't want to be there for you? Or is the truth going to come out? Because somebody out there knows the truth. And that child finds out the truth from somebody else. Now what? We have to be careful. We have to be so careful, because our children did not ask to be here. We brought these children into the world. And so it's our job to raise them up and nurture them and try to make them be productive citizens, at most be respectful. But if they see you as a parent being disrespectful to the other parent, or saying negative things or doing negative things towards the other parent, then what are they picking up, and how is that going to affect them going forward? We have to think about those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I believe it was a celebrity. I'm not sure exactly the name right now, but he calculated up what the child support was going to be for the next however many years he had left to pay, and just wrote her a check, right? And so, at first it's like, okay, you get a big chunk of change, but then after a while it's like, well, I'm not seeing that consistent, drop in my account every, anymore, because now I done spent all the big chunk of change, right? So, people get upset about that type of thing. And I think what can happen is sometimes people want to go back to court because they feel like they've been done wrong, because he managed his finances in a way that wasn't convenient for you. And so we got to be careful, because again, this sets a precedence now. So when someone else that does want to just kind of get ahead of the game wants to do that, and the mama gets mad, now what?
Back in court again.
Back in court, possibly jail at this point.
And the cycle repeats itself, because if I can use it as a weapon, I'm going to use it. And that's the mentality of some parents. If I can use the court system as a weapon, I'm going to use it. And at the most, if it doesn't go my way, I'm going to try to get court fees at least. I'm going to get something out of this deal. As Denzel would say, hey, I'm from around the way. I'm leaving here with something. I'm leaving here with something. I'm just saying.
You said it, Kev.
I'm getting something out of this deal. I'm going to get something out of this deal. If you're not going to pay me extra child support, I'm going to drag you through the mud. You're going to pay my court fees, or something's coming out of this deal. So, and that's the mentality that we see it happen all the time. So I'm not making this stuff up. So don't listen to this. Well, why would Kevin say that? No, you go out to social media, you go out to the news, and you'll see exactly what I'm saying when you're dealing with court or co-parenting and child custody issues and alimony and what they call it, palimony, and all the other stuff. When somebody, like Chanel just said, use example she's used, when somebody has enough money to pay off the person, say, okay, what's going to cost me this much money for the next 5 years with support and all this stuff and insurance, here, one big check, boom. Now there's no more money coming in. You getting that one big check. It's got to last you for the next 5, 6, 7 years.
Make it work.
And if you don't make it work, when the money runs out, that's when things usually happen, go sideways again. So, hey, Chanel.
And then, let's take it a step further, real quick, Kev, because now you got my mind turning. So let's just say the kid wants to come back to live with the dad. He done wrote a whole check for the next, for the rest of his quote unquote time that he's supposed to, but the child's like, Dad, I want to come live with you. He come now. Are you going to require her to pay some of that money back in addition to her child support that she's supposed to pay?
Chanel, I'm not going to go back to a word.
I know this is touching a nerve with you.
No, I'm not going to go back to a word that we used 2 years ago when we started this thing and we had this long discussion. You had to go ask your friends about this word. But I'm not going to somebody else's pockets, because for sanity purposes, if your child wants to come live with you again, come back and live with you, and you've already paid off one big, huge lump sum. The right thing to do and the decent thing to do are two different things.
Yeah.
The right thing to do would be, okay, we're going to go get my money back. The decent thing to do in some situation would be like, hey, I'm calling this a wash and we are done. Child come live with me. I don't owe you anything and you don't owe me anything. But if ugly rears his head, we're going back to court now. Now you're going to pay me child support. And plus I want my money back. See, now you see where I'm going? That's why the right thing to do and the decent thing to do are two different things. So you have to weigh those things out. Where are you at with the relationship with the other parent at the time of these situations? If you got somebody who's vindictive versus somebody who you all are cordial together, you may be able to have a conversation and be done with it. Mm-hmm. However, if it's on the other end of the pendulum, is it worth it?
Is it worth it? See, that's the question. I think that concludes all of our videos, Kev. Yeah. Is it worth it? Mm-hmm. And sometimes people feel like it is worth it, and that causes all the drama.
Yeah, we're not the person that made that decision. You as co-parents out there, that's the decision that you all need to make. And especially if you're married again, and you and your spouse need to sit down and have this conversation. Is it going to be worth the headache, the heartache, the trouble, the turmoil that's going to cause from this? And in the meantime, the child's in the middle of all this, and we got to keep this stuff away from the child because they shouldn't be in grown people's business.
That part.
Chanel, we're not going to belabor. I think we have given this viewing audience enough nuggets for them to chew on. Well, if you chew on it, your teeth will fall out. Enough stuff to come back and relate to and be able to apply it, hopefully. So with that, Chanel, I'm going to tell these people to stay safe and be blessed. And what do you have for them?
And I'm going to say, keep God first. At the end of the day, he going to make you do the decent thing, not the ratchet thing. That's all I got, Kev.
And please don't be the person saying, hey, I'm leaving here with something. Just
don't be Denzel in this case.
Don't do that. Just work with the other co-parent, please. And with that, we out.